Hi everyone, good morning, good evening, wherever you're in the world. Welcome to another series of Foundry virtual events, and thank you again for joining us. My name is Joyce, your marketing host for today. Just to let you know, today's session is recorded and will be available as on demand after the webinar. Today's session is covered by our very own Roy Yang, Head of Creative Services for APAC. Roy will be staying back live as well to cover any questions after the webinar. So make sure to stay back if you have any questions for Nuke Studio. So we have some really cool content available on our website. We have a story on creating on-set VFX with near real time. We have a course as well on Hiero and Nuke Studio timeline for editors specifically. And we have a really cool collaboration as well with Rocket Science VFX on how they use Nuke Studio for episodic content, specifically on The Boys. Also, make sure to follow us on social media as well for any industry trends and updates. So in case you missed some of our past webinars, not to worry, you can all watch that in your own time. I will share this link on the chat as well. So recently we had some awesome collaboration with a few studios, one being Trickster, takes on Shang-Chi, and The Legend of the Ten Rings with Katana. If you were at FMX, I believe that was a similar session that as well. We also had Love, Death, and Robots on the Life Fetch episode, which is from Volume 2 with Blur Studio. And we also had a Katana 5.0 series and near real-time virtual production with Nuke on Set, which is a panel. So if you have any questions, any concerns, or you want to participate in virtual events, just send us an email on virtual.events@foundry.com. So as I'm sure you know, Nuke 13.2 is out, helping accelerate creativity with upgraded workflows and new tech, removing pipeline friction. If you haven't had a chance to look at the specs, now is a chance. I will send you the link, I will drop it in the chat shortly as well, so you have direct access to all the assets. And that's it for me, short and sweet. So let's dive straight into the actual webinar. Take control over your project with multi-shot editorial tool, Nuke Studio.
Hi everyone, this is Roy from Foundry, and today I'll introduce how to take control over a project with multi-shot editorial tool, Nuke Studio. Some of the workflows we will look at: multi-shot management, shot consistency, troubleshooting artist shots, and team review. We need to look at this in a broader context, as we can draw strengths into Nuke Studio by sharing a unified timeline with your artists. And the first thing we're going to look at is the difference between our timeline applications. First, let's start on the right-hand side with HieroPlayer. HieroPlayer is an artist tool. It can be used for review work in contest. It integrates with Nuke, and it can be used for team review. It's really an extension for Nuke, and that's extremely useful for artists. And then we look at Hiero. This could be used by visual effects editors, project coordinators, and others. And from here, we will do tasks such as onlining, conforming, distributing media by export, editorial review, and media management. And Nuke Studio, which is generally used by visual effects supervisor and department leads, like comp or lighting leads, we could do all the tasks we would do in Hiero, but Nuke Studio has a NukeX built into it. So from there, we can have some extra functionalities, like we can create comp directly in timeline, and we can perform compositing tasks. Now let's take a look at artist tool HieroPlayer. Let's look at from compositor point of view. As a compositor, at some point, you want to create a flipbook. If you play back inside Nuke Viewer, you're going to be cached into RAM, which is CPU based. This is great, but when you begin to make changes or take a look around, you're going to lose that cache. So at some point, you want to create a proper flipbook. And normally, we could use Nuke internal flipbook viewer with proper frame rate and without losing the cache. But we can also send it to HieroPlayer. And this becomes a nice workflow. Once we set that up, and we can go ahead and hit OK, that the flipbook will be processed. We can also process in background if we want. And once it's done, HieroPlayer will launch automatically with flipbook ready. So from here, it'll begin to play through. And this is a great way that we can go in and inspect things. So we can scrub and we can even zoom in and out. And most importantly, we are having stable playback frame rate. And at some point, we continue to composite. And we're gonna make another flipbook. Once it's done processing, it'll be automatically added to HieroPlayer. So now, we have both flipbooks here. We can begin to stack these up throughout the day, and we can compare the versions, or we can even save it as a HieroPlayer project. Close HieroPlayer, and we can open it up at a later time with all these flipbooks inside. And the nice thing with HieroPlayer is that we have access to a timeline which we don't have inside Nuke. So from here, we can grab these flipbooks and playback on the timeline. And it doesn't have to be just flipbook. We can go on disk and grab any shots, files, and media as well. In this case, we're going to look at flipbook. Just like in Nuke, we can hit 1 for one track and 2 for another. And then we can wipe between these two shots through the HieroPlayer viewer, which is based on GPU. We also have onion skin, differences, or even horizontal side-by-side mode for you to compare in between these versions. Just like Nuke, if it is multi-layer EXRs, all the channels will be listed so we can do pass inspection. We understand in many cases, artists works on multiple shots from a sequence, so we can begin to put them into a timeline and review them in context. From here, we can play back them one after another and make sure the continuity is there, the consistency is there between all of the shots we are working on. Another nice thing we can do is we could have a HieroPlayer project that associates with our stock footage library. We can now browse stock footages in a nice visual way. We can browse them from thumbnails and drag and drop the footages we like into timeline. We can also take advantage of different blend mode in between the tracks and quickly do a slack comp over the background. If we like what we see, we can Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V bring them directly into Nuke node space. Not only HieroPlayer, but other applications can be utilizing this workflow as well. In this case, we're inside of Maya. We have a script gonna be doing a play blast, and we can also send them to HieroPlayer and enjoy all the features and the functionalities inside HieroPlayer. If you have any assets manager, we can integrate through an API. In this case, we're looking at a custom asset manager. As artists, we can grab the shots from a playlist inside the assets manager and build out a timeline for us. If there are multiple versions associated with shots, we can quickly use hotkeys to flip the versions. We can also hover over the shots and press V button, and in that way, we can view the versions and choose from them on the timeline. We can access any custom asset manager through an API. We have great connections with some of the major assets managers that studios are using. We understand many of our artists are working from home during this difficult time. We also have ability to do review sync. From the sync session panel, we can host or connect a sync session. A sync session can be hosted from any of the timeline applications, whether it is HieroPlayer, Hiero, or Nuke Studio. And we can join one as well. By connecting to a session, project will be automatically loaded in and be part of a sync session. Here we have Nuke Studio on the screen left side and HieroPlayer on the screen right side. Whatever is happening in the Nuke Studio, whether scrubbing the playhead, adding soft effects, or adding new clips, when supervisors want to talk about a shot, they can start using annotation tools which will be shown on artist's HieroPlayer simultaneously. And artists can also share thoughts from their HieroPlayer. After getting notes from the supervisor, artists can right-click on the comp container and enter the Nuke session right away. HieroPlayer is now included as part of Nuke and NukeX. It provides Nuke artists with the ability to review and playback their own work in context, allow artists to check consistency between shots, give artists more confidence when submitting their work to supervisor for review and approval. So now let's take a look at some Nuke Studio workflows for visual effects supervisors or department leads. The first thing we'll look at is conform and playback. From Nuke Studio or Hiero, we can import EDL, XML, or AAF file from editorial. We can also import OTIO, which we'll look at later on. In this case, we're going to load in an XML. All the media and cuts will show up inside of the timeline. We can use match media functionalities through a spreadsheet. After we select the parent folder for all the media located, we could also set up the conform options, such as include patterns for EXRs or MOVs, and exclude patterns such as Nuke scripts. Once we hit OK, it'll go and match all the media. If you're lucky, you can get all the shots online. Or you could always go to the spreadsheet to troubleshoot and find some clips. And here we can set up reference media. We can go and point to an offline media. It'll automatically create a track called reference and bring any audio associated with it as well. Another nice feature is we can copy cuts from one track onto another. So we can copy cuts from editorial to reference video and audio as well. This comes in handy when we want to distribute the reference media to our compositors or even other departments, such as animation department for matching their animation. The playback engine inside Nuke Studio, Hiero, and HieroPlayer is a GPU-based viewer. It gives us fast and interactive playback, maintain a stable frame rate. Even when we're dealing with the large resolutions, when you play back shots, you'll see a white line in viewer. It means these are the frames being cached to RAM, which stay ahead of our playhead. And these are very much depending on how much RAM you have inside a machine. And it might be some areas of our timeline that can get heavy. For example, this timeline built out from a department level, which has up to 5 2K footages. In this case, we can do a timeline disk cache and cache this to a disk through an EXR sequence. We can do this in different ways. We can cache entire sequence, specific shot range, or in and out points. Once we do that, you'll see an orange line in the viewer. These are the frames cached to the disk for playback. We can also do a combination by caching heavy areas to the disk and use RAM cache for the rest of the timeline. And next, let's take a look at soft effects inside Nuke Studio. Soft effects are GPU-based effects. They're designed for the timeline and the playback real-time. First, we can add clip-based soft effects. For example, we can add a gray node to this clip container, which may have many versions inside of it. We can also add sequence-based soft effects. We can achieve this by adding a new video track and apply another soft effect. Anything that below these soft effects on the timeline will receive the same effect. And the lengths of the soft effects are editable. This is useful if we have a show LUT. The next thing is version-based soft effects. If we select any clip container and right-click into a timeline reel, we'll isolate our source clip with the specific version and apply soft effects just to that particular version. Next thing we are looking at is metadata through tagging. We have a tagging system inside of Nuke Studio and Hiero, and it comes with a bunch of preset tags, such as status tags, which could inline with Assets Manager for approval and revision. You can drag and drop these tags directly onto clip container. If we select that tag, we can add nodes as part of the metadata, as well as key and value metadata. If we drag and drop tags over viewer, we can then tag the whole sequence, tag the frame, tag a track item, or tag a clip. In this case, we could do frame tagging. Icon will show up on this particular frame. This is extremely useful. When there is a review session, we can highlight a couple of keyframes. And then we could also quickly get to them by tag jumping. There are hotkeys for us to jump back and forth between these tags. We can also use these tags for filtering shots. When we have spreadsheet open, we can drag the tag into search bar, and then we are only looking at those shots with that tag. For example, we can use final tag to pick all the final shots and make them into sequence for review session. The metadata in general inside our timeline is quite robust. We can view them as sequence or shots. All the information associated with this EXR sequence is read on a frame-by-frame basis. If we scrub the timeline, the value will change accordingly. If we add tag to a clip, it will show under the clip level. If we add a tag to the frame, it will show under the sequence level. And this is another extremely useful case that we could burn in metadata information on the timeline. We could also do metadata through soft effects. From there, we could modify or add any custom metadata. One of the key features from Nuke Studio or Hiero is shot and sequence management. First of all, you can build shots from an export structure. We can define export presets and then select the track and select build tracks from export structure. For example, we are here to bring in another track from lighting. We'll select the export preset accordingly and bring in the latest lighting passes. Since we have all the passes for the shot, we could select the clip on those tracks, right-click, and create comp through soft effects. Once we do that, we'll have a comp container on the new VFX track, and we can go directly into Nuke node graph by double-clicking it. And then we can begin to inspect the footage that is coming in. We can also manage artist shots from timeline. Here we have a sequence contains all the shots from artist A. From there, we can double-click on the comp with annotations. For example, open the pre-comp node to check all the annotations from different keyframes. There is also version linking inside of Nuke Studio and Hiero. For example, we have different language versions in some shots. We can unlink shot from source clip and be able to choose whichever version we want on the timeline. Here is another useful function called snapshots. Other than save out our timeline as a project, we could also save different stages of a sequence by saving snapshots. We can use this to reconfirm or simply jump back to an earlier state. Nuke Studio has a NukeX built in. We have a node graph inside of Nuke Studio. We can use all of the Nuke and the NukeX nodes, such as Smart Vector, Camera Tracker, or even machine learning tools such as Copycat and Inference Node. Last but not least, export and distribution, which is the backbone of Nuke Studio. From here, we can select our sequence and choose to export. We can process as a sequence. This is very handy if we are doing dailies, QuickTime movies. Or we can export it as EDL XML for editorial. We can also process as shots. From here, we have some templates. We can transcode shots as DPX. We can also change these options under the content section, such as EXR with compression options available. We have another template like basic Nuke shot. We can even create Nuke script for each of these shots. Under the Nuke project file section, we can also have additional write nodes, reformat, and we could even add additional nodes into each Nuke script by simply copy and paste the nodes into the script area. On the Nuke write node side, we can set up color space, file type, bit depth, etc. If we hover over export structure, we'll see a list of all the curly bracket tokens. Down below, we could choose to export all tracks or specific tracks. We could also use tagging system to filter the export by including or excluding. We also have handle section to adjust handles and the start frame. In the end, when we need to run this export, we could do this locally by choosing frame server, which is Nuke Studio's background task render, or we could also send it to the farm. Bit of an overview on this. Our Nuke artists are using Nuke for compositing tasks and using HieroPlayer for review their shots in context and managing their shots. Our supervisors and department leads are using Nuke Studio to have an overview of the projects from this unified timeline. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the new features coming into Nuke 13.2.
For Nuke 13.2, as part of our improvements to the 3D UX, we have provided more options for adjusting 3D pivot points. And we've also improved the free rotate algorithm, so free rotating objects in the viewer is more intuitive. We've added the ability to rotate the 3D pivot point, making it possible to quickly align your 3D handles to geometry, both intuitively with the handles directly in the viewer, and also in the Properties panel. There's also a new internal axis indicator for the pivot point, and we've made this visible in vertex selection mode, allowing you to visualize the true orientation of the pivot point. We've also added the ability to match the pivot point position to a selection of vertices, following the same workflow as the existing match to selection workflow, making it much faster and easier to move pivot points to precisely where you'd like them to be. No more tumbling around the viewer to make sure everything is aligned. The new pivot point to selection feature can be found in the existing match position menu. We've renamed the drop-down options from match selection position to geo to selection, to separate the geometry match selection behaviour from the pivot point match selection behaviour. These new features should help speed up your 3D workflow, making it faster and easier to precisely place and align your pivot points.
In Nuke 13.2, we have introduced a new way that Nuke renders its node graph called top-down rendering. Top-down inverts Nuke's classic rendering method, rendering the graph node by node from the top of the graph down, rather than by scanline on demand. This allows Nuke to cache its data more efficiently, reduce thread synchronization issues, and results in overall faster rendering. Our internal testing has shown on average a render speed improvement of around 20%, and some scripts by as much as 150%. Because top-down renders the script node by node from the top of the graph down, Nuke's scanline by scanline progressive update to the viewer is replaced by the whole image updating at once, as you can see here in this example. To enable this new render method, you can either use an environment variable, pass the -- top-down flag at launch, or by enabling it as an option in the script's project settings here. We hope you can see and enjoy these render benefits and speed-ups when using the new Nuke 13.2.
For Nuke 13.2, we've continued the work that we started in 13.0 and further updated the monitor out functionality. First, we've added an exciting new feature to the viewer monitor out with the introduction of support for NDI in the Nuke family. NDI is a network protocol that enables video to be sent over standard IP networks in real time. This will enable users to share and very easily stream their viewer content to anyone else on the network, allowing for quicker collaboration and feedback. To view the NDI stream created, you will need to use the NDI monitor, which can be downloaded for free from NDI. Here you can see Nuke Studio playing back a sequence with the output streamed to the NDI monitor. In Nuke's node graph, we now have multi-monitor out and have integrated the monitor out with the viewer. All of the features of the monitor out remain the same, but controls are now presented as a tab in the viewer instead of a separate properties panel. This now means that each viewer in Nuke can have its own independent monitor out. In this demo, we are using 5 viewers. The main viewer is feeding an NDI stream, or this could be an output to an Arja or Blackmagic video device. The image is then split into 4 quadrants and a viewer is attached to each. We're using the floating window to emulate 4 streams to 4 projectors. So we have 5 simultaneous outputs from Nuke, allowing you to easily display and compare multiple shots or versions across a setup of your choosing. The monitor out strip found under the player controls can now control each independent monitor out quickly and easily with a new drop-down menu. Here we are illustrating the independent output transform that can be applied to any device in the monitor out. We have also updated the output controls for Arja and Blackmagic video devices. A new knob has been added, SDI mapping. This allows users to see what mapping type and how many links the card is using to send the video over. For HD, single or dual link options are available, whilst for Ultra HD, the card may be using single, dual, or quad link, depending on the card type. With these ongoing updates to monitor out, we are continuing to provide greater workflow efficiencies, making review sessions more productive and ensuring that everyone in the team is always on the same page. With Nuke 13.2, we have continued to improve our machine learning tools, enhancing the copycat node with faster training, support for multiple GPUs, and multi-channel training. We have also removed any limitation on the number of training images and enabled the ability to train on a headless nuke with the -X flag. With this update, we focused on leveraging more of your GPU power to make the most of your time. Now, not only is single GPU training up to 30% faster, but you can also take advantage of setups with multiple GPUs, enabling you to iterate quicker through your experiments. With these new changes, you can either speed up training by running copycat on all your GPUs simultaneously, or run different training sessions on each GPU, allowing you to do more experiments at the same time. Furthermore, we want you to make the most out of your data. To do so, Copycat can now support more than 4 channels, exactly as many as your GPU and Nuke can handle, empowering you to train networks for a variety of more advanced use cases, or simply to avoid training similar networks over and over again. Like in this case, instead of having 4 different networks, I have trained one network to do the 4 different use cases. With this release, your copycat pipeline will be more streamlined, faster, and more powerful than ever before. So level up your workflow and make the most out of your copycat node. In Nuke 13.2, we build on Unreal Reader with a number of improvements in stability and usability, as well as enhancements for existing features. Among the various UI improvements in this release, we now have a dedicated Connect to Server button, reduced number of tabs, settings organized into more logical groupings, and advanced tab settings which more closely match movie render queue settings in naming and order shown. We've also done some core refactor work under the hood to improve the overall stability of Unreal Reader, with many bugs fixed as a result. For stencil layer picking, we've replaced the table list of items with a faster and more intuitive workflow that is similar to the existing Cryptomat selection process. So less time is spent searching for items, and only those items you're working with are shown in the layer list once selected. This allows you to select and deselect stencil layer items directly in the viewer, as well as use the various selection syntax options available in the layer list to include or exclude multiple items at once. All other aspects of the stencil layer feature set work as before, be it removing occlusions and shadows, or including render passes in the stencil layers to assist your workflow. New Cryptomat render pass ID grouping types are now available in the Advanced tab for segmenting your Unreal scene. Among the options for Cryptomat division are per actor, per material, per folder, and per layer. This allows you to take full advantage of the flexibility available in Unreal's ID types for all your Cryptomat segmentation needs. We've expanded the capability of the Write Sections file knob to now support environment variables. Using the familiar getenv syntax, you can now write to and read from a shared network location from the Unreal Reader node when Unreal Engine is running on another machine with a potentially different operating system. The Write Sections EXR compression options have been extended to include all of the standard EXR options found in Nuke, allowing you to take advantage of whichever compression output fits your workflow.
We are bringing users better and faster workflows in the timeline by supporting non-linear dissolves and drastically reducing the time projects takes to load. To improve the workflows when working in episodic and complex projects, as well as working collaboratively with Sync Review, we have reduced the time it takes to load Hiero projects by an average of 60%. With Nuke Studio and Hiero projects becoming bigger, they can take longer to load. To improve this, we are drastically reducing the time projects takes to load, including the larger projects, and making connecting or joining to sync sessions a lot faster. To see these improvements, users will have to load a project that has been saved in 13.2. We are also bringing nonlinear dissolves to the timeline. To use nonlinear dissolves, just double-click in a transition and edit the transition from the Properties panel or by adjusting and creating frames in the Curve Editor or Dock Sheet. You can use nonlinear dissolves for editorial purposes, fade in and fade outs, or to set up the mix of plates on your shots in real time. Now, transitions also get applied properly to clips with soft effects. With nonlinear dissolve support in Nuke 13.2, you can now import timelines more accurately and have the freedom to be more creative in your edits. In 13.2, we are introducing OTIO. In combination with the previous work done in metadata management, we expect OTIO to be the future of editorial workflows when manipulating editorial data. OTIO is a format for editorial cut information, similar to an EDL, but it also includes an API for reading, writing, and manipulating editorial data. We see OTIO as the modern way to move your editorial data throughout the pipeline, either to carry the editorial cuts as they evolve, or to create playlists to review your shots throughout your shows. We are seeing the increase of interest in OTIO, and even though OTIO v1 hasn't been delivered yet, we have decided to release it as a beta feature early on, so studios can start incorporating OTIO into their pipelines. Users also have access to the OTIO API shipped with Nuke, allowing them to create custom events based on their workflows, as well as creating custom imports and exporting using OTIO to feed their pipelines. We will continue the work with the OTIO team for future releases and continue implementing OTIO into our softwares.
And that is all for today's webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Stay safe and happy comping.
Okay, I think we'll take some questions now. So for those who just joined, please feel free to drop your questions in the question tab. Roy, shall we dive in to some of the questions?
Yep.
There is a good one from Daniel Pellegrini. Did you improve the Nuke Studio frame server render speed?
Actually, that's a very good question. I just checked with the team. So has not yet. It's because the render, we just sent it off to the render file or the local render. So this is something you send off the task and then get integrate with your machine locally. We improved a lot on loading the project, everything inside Nuke side, like loading the project, processing the nodes and node trees. So make compers feel more accelerated when they're working. But when they're done working, set up the render, that needs to be addressed in our next version, or I'll check with the team what's their plan on that. Thank you very much for this question.
Perfect. And I just realized my camera is finally working. So hello. Perfect. Let's dive into the next one. There's this interesting one from Greg. Can you set up multiple shots or sequences at once using a custom Nuke template in Nuke Studio? If so, can it use the shot length and metadata to set up each script?
I think you definitely can. So first of all, Nuke Studio is Python capable, so you can definitely to put those kind of script to control the pipeline between your shot management tool and Nuke Studio, or even Nuke script, right? So when you create those Nuke script from the Nuke Studio, we mentioned there's actually a tab. You can copy and paste your script into those Nuke templates. So the templates can be controlled. And of course, those kind of details like the length of the shots or the write nodes, where the write nodes need to write to where the location of the disk, or even how many nodes you want to load in as a pre-comp. For that kind of stuff, you can do from Nuke Studio, or you have an internal like TD or working for a company, they can also do on their side as well, which is Python is available. So I think that this is definitely doable.
Perfect. Thank you for that. There is a question from Daniel, is there match frame editorial functionality available in Nuke Studio /Hiero? What I mean is to quickly jump from the project clip from the timeline clip and vice versa.
For the match frame editorial function, so basically you quickly jump from, so there's a thing called snapshot. We can quickly jump to any stage of your Nuke Studio session. Let's say you change things on your timeline, you update elements, so you can definitely do that. But for match frame from project to project, for I know we didn't. We don't have that. That is also something I need to confirm with the team. So is there any workarounds? So if you have assets management tool or you have some shortcuts you can use in the backgrounds, I'll check.
Perfect. Let me go to the next one. Question from Jake. Are there any plans to implement some type of clip opacity control to Hiero? Apologies.
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. So we can apply blend mode, different blend mode from track to track, but the opacity is something, it's not available for now. But I think we can definitely achieve that by adding more and more effects to the GPU side, which is the timeline effects, soft effects collections. So yes, this is something I also want to check with the team, see is any plan to implement more that kind of, because that's a basket, right? Say or a container, you can drop as much as you want, but we always have a wish list. So I think I need to check with the team. Yeah.
Perfect. And we have a question from Rob. Is there a gang sync function to compare cut updates in the editorial workspace?
To be honest, so the sync function compared to editorial to Nuke Studio or Hiero is always just update your EDL file, right? So update your XML file, EDL file. That's the way how it is right now. So the gang sync function, I think, is something related to you want to sync all the material automatically, right? So by comparing them. So unfortunately, right now you have to import and match media. So match media is the button you need to click, and then you can sort of things. If you already set up that in your folder structure, it should be easier. So you always just loading the new EDL, match media, that kind of fashion. But if you want to do that like in an automatic fashion, and you do that, you can create some scripts. You do Python through when loading up the project and read that update first. So that's also a TD question. So I think can do that, but it's not available right now, and that's what I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but because this is something constantly moving, forward from our clients, how they use our software versus their own pipeline. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Roy. Let's go into. There's one question from Gabrielle. Hi, I'm trying to create relative path Nuke scripts from Nuke Studio, but it does not work. If I create Nuke Studio projects in a different folder than the Nuke scripts export path, how can you fix that? I need to create the Nuke Studio project in the same folders as Nuke scripts. Do we need some clarification on that, Roy?
Yeah, I think that's it's a very much detailed question about relative paths. For the relative paths on the Nuke side, we have a lot of resources. We have articles, we have a video online, but on the Nuke Studio project in a different folder for the relative paths, I think that's also doable because it's the same, right? So Nuke Studio file, script location, And then when you load the Nuke Studio, and you could write that in the script, and then to make reflect that. So that's another script, the Python script question. I think we do that because I think we need some. This is not something a software company would do. I think we should check with the studios and our customers, say they do that, or anything being shared somewhere. We can use this is another level of a relative path than we usually share among like Nuke users or NukeX users, right? So this is something for the Nuke Studio users. I think we need to reflect that in the forum or somewhere, or make a video. This is actually a very good reminder. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And then there's one from Yuri. Can I change status on ftrack only by using the new tags in Hiero? Approved, awaiting approve, etc.
This is okay. So you use ftrack from ftrack to Nuke Studio. So Nuke Studio has a bunch of tags, right? So I have approval tags, which you use most of the time. So I think those need to be synced to ftrack part. So that's also a scripting part when you set up things and you want a tag to transfer from apps to apps, sync with certain tags. So I think you can definitely do that, but it's just on the ftrack you need some setups. But from the Nuke Studio side, tags are already there. Tagging system already. You can tag the frame, tag the sequence, tag the clip, tag different version of the source clips. So all of that is already there. So I think you can do that, but you need to focus on the ftrack side and see how to transfer those information from the tagging from there to our system. So yeah, so that is what I know.
Perfect. And we had another question from, just because the questions are voted, it keeps moving on my screen. So I'm just trying to find. Oh, it's moving a lot. No, keep bringing your questions in if you have any more. We've got one from Justin. Are there any online resources with example Python scripts, for example, a tool that loads 2 list shots, latest comp and plate to compare in a review session?
For the scripting, I say with Nukepedia is the resource you want to go. Nukepedia is a open website by Frank Roeder from New Zealand. He owned the website and has a lot of useful information from third parties and the users. So for that, I think we definitely can check if there's any script there. So be shared from Foundry. I don't think we correct me wrong, because the Nuke team here. So I don't think we're a centralized place for sharing scripts, because this is always on the third party side. In our forum, randomly, there are people posting their solutions to specific questions. So I think you can also go to the forums on our support page. We have forums. You can go under categories. You can choose Katana, Nuke, Modo. You choose Nuke, and you can go inside and see if any related topic about script sharing. So those are the places I know you can find those scripts.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And then there's another question from Andrew Ward. Is there the future possibility of being able to reassign keyboard shortcuts for whatever the user wants?
For the keyboard shortcut mapping, yes, I think that's related to the config file. So in the config file, if there's a keyboard shortcuts mapping there, you can definitely do that. But for the keyboard shortcuts sheets, we got it from Foundry, like the software. They give you a sheet, so those are already designated. Those are assigned key shortcuts. So I think you can change that by going to the config files and to locate where are those, and you can customize them. And that's on the software side. And on the keyboard side, another level of control on the hardware side, you can always reassign your keys, but I'm not sure how designate the keyboard to this task. The keyboard is using for many other apps as well. So yeah, that's what I know. Yeah.
Perfect.
And by the way, so if you are a Foundry customer, feel free because I myself, I share what I know, but I cannot represent our support team and the whole Nuke team. There's a lot of talents that know much more than myself. So if you are a customer, you can send these questions to the support. They can definitely dig down for you. Okay, so do we have a script? Like we can actually go in and change your settings in your config files. They will definitely find out detail for you. Unfortunately, this is not the moment for me to dig in. I don't have time to ask them to get the question answer back for you now. But I think feel free to contact our support team for much more detailed answer. Thank you.
Awesome. And then we had another question from Daniele. The question is this new Nuke Studio release, does it have any possibility to launch a Python script when exporting from the timeline to future customize the final scripts delivering to artists?
Yes, I think this is what I actually reached during my demo, is that from the export sheet, the menu, the panel, which is the backbone of Nuke Studio, you can export the whole shot, the sequence, right? Each shot, you can basically export the script. You can copy and paste the script in there to share among the certain amount of shots. So let's say a pre-comp script, or a key treatment, or a pre-render, or something related to CG renders, fixings, or color corrections. So that can be done. So so that Python script can be already be in when you export. So that's the way how Nuke Studio do it. Yeah. But on the other hand, yeah, if you have TDs and things, and teams, and can do a lot of things more than that, if you're familiar with the development side of the world, then you can always write script and make sure all of these being sent out by the assets management tool. But from the individual users, I think Nuke Studio right now, yes, you can do that by the export panel functions.
Let's see if we have any more. If you have any, we have a little bit more time. If any of you guys have any further questions. I think there's no more questions from anyone. No, I think we're good. Final chance. A few more minutes left. Okay. I think.
Okay, so there's one answer from Jesse in the background regarding the question from Luis.
Okay.
Are there any progress in getting Nuke to run on M1 Max? So there's an answer from our team saying Apple M1 has also been tested on Rosetta emulation to ensure new functionality run as expected on the M1 hardware. So with that, the new version 13.2 covers that M1 series. So if you have Apple M1 or you plan to getting that, then I think Nuke 13.2 is the version you want to look into that.
Okay, and we have from Christine, I'd like to implement this workflow in a college setting. Do these tools work in the Edu version?
Very good question. So, education. So for my understanding, education licenses, they have all functions. Okay. So these are the available workflow for education purpose, because we want to keep, enable our teachers, our education facilities to have the full tool sets to teach or to experimenting with students or their in-house projects. So I think that's what I know. So for education software is exactly as commercial series. You can definitely implement this to any of your education projects. So that's what I know. And another thing is we have our education manager, we have our Foundry education department to solely deal with your requests. So we love to teach students. We have many students in all regions, not as in my region, IPAC was worldwide. We support schools and we encourage our teacher to use our tools. So yeah, make sure you contact our education team and you can get more support from there.
Excellent. Cool. Let's see. Okay, sorry, screen's moving again. So just checking what's more upvoted. We have another question from Greg Dora. Can you recommend any resources for Python for Nuke functions, etc.?
That's a good question. So I know like Anaconda or like some script editors. So you can use that to learn Python script. And then there's a lot of like Python script courses online. So even, we Foundry guys, if we want to learn Python, we will go through some of those open sources as well. I'm not mean that these are all free, but some of them may be you can purchase some of the Python course from online. There's many of them, and then many of them are very good reviews. So I encourage you to search for those courses to have those free Python script editor installed on your machine, and then you can start like learning in different levels. You can, if you're entry level, intermediate level, or advanced levels. And another thing is, as I mentioned, Nukepedia or our forum is someone not only know Python, but they know Python specifically for our field, right? In visual effects or in media production. So don't be shy to share your questions there as well. Or you can download some of the free script or the script being shared with among our users. You can take in and you can check it and see how they've been written, and then you can learn from it. And so there's many ways you can learn things. And nowadays, just endless materials to learn online.
Okay. I feel like Daniele and Daniel are the most active audience for today's webinar. Before we dive into your next questions, let's just see if anyone else has any other ones as well. We have...
I saw him at the Nuke Studio workstation, right?
Yeah, which one? Can you hit start live answer just so that everyone else can see that?
Sorry, so where should I hit the start live answer?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Can you recommend an optimum hardware configuration for Nuke Studio? That question I actually want to answer because I just clicked on our tech spec page from Nuke family the website, right? So we have website, a page for Nuke family, and there's a tech spec. If you hit that, there's a hardware recommendation or all series of, like what is for NukeX and what is for Nuke Studio. So unfortunately, you cannot find a Nuke Studio spec recommendation there now, but it was there. It was there like a year ago. The reason we took it off is because the hardware keep growing. They keep updating. So by the time we spend time and team and time to investigate and test all of these specs, it was good. It was from the major vendor. It's also one of our sponsor. So the top like hardware, and we check everything, give out the like frame rates, or give out the test results from different sides of the script, and testing not even internally, some externally resources. We get it done, and then now the hardware all refreshed. So it's a time for actually the team is actually working on the next stage, like what's the most relevant, most up-to-date hardware to test. So I'll say for Nuke Studio in general, you need to have a really good workstation for that, right? So because it has a real-time playback requirement. So basically you need CPU, you need RAM, you need memories, you of course you need GPUs because NukeX is also built in. So that kind of things you really need to look into. Another thing is the machine needs to have enough port to connect to Aja or Blackmagic, because Nuke Studio is also a finishing system, right? So you need to get all those signals out. You don't want to get clock on anywhere, like not a real time thing now. And also Nuke Studio supports for the monitor out features, right? So the higher definition video out, HDV out. So there's a lot of other aspect you need to look into. So keep checking our page, and I think our team is working really hard on that. And once they're done with all of this, like NDI monitor out testings with different specs, and I think they'll have an answer for you.
Thank you. And I've just added the link to the tech spec as well in the chat tab for you, Daniele, and everyone else who wants to see it as well. Excellent. So we've got 2 more minutes left. If you have any more questions, let's go through. There's one more that I just quickly saw that just disappeared from my screen. There was one from Sriram. Are we planning on any improvements on live groups?
Yeah, live group. Okay, so live group is an idea we borrow from Katana. So this is something actually really interesting when we got those kind of these software used to be in different studios, right? So, but they are all node based. So live group is a great way to sync the team work together. I think we got some feedback on that, but we move on to our new features like copycat and other things. So I think it's really the time for us to reach back to the feedbacks on the live groups. Unfortunately, personally, I don't have much update on that. So I need to look into the database. So let's say our target progress pages and see how many questions being asked from our clients towards live groups, and I can give you a much true answer on that. For now, I don't see any past versions, especially for the live group. When we announced that, after that, I don't see any major updates on that side, and that's my answer for now. But I think that's a very interesting topic we should look into.
Definitely something that we can look into at a later stage as well. Perfect. So we are on the hour, but I'm going to squeeze in one more question, and then we'll have to say goodbye. One more from Daniel. And this one is, oh no, it's disappeared. Where did it go? Oh, there you go. Yes. Why is Nuke Python module not available from Hiero Python / startup UI scripts, but is available during interactive script editor sessions?
Okay, so because I think it's the same as Nuke Studio, right? So basically, you have Hiero and Nuke Studio as a finishing interface, and you jump into NukeX part or the Nuke part is different thing. And it's the Python startup UI. It's just I think these two levels. So you're jumping these two levels, and we have different workspace for that. And literally, you're running a level of Nuke Studio Hiero above that, and then you have a NukeX and Nuke separately on another level. If I'm not sure if I explained it very clearly. It's just it feels like a Nuke Studio and the NukeX is supposed to be one software, but it's just the two different levels. And then I think that's the main reason why those scripts are not completely opened, the Python, but I think there's a way to do that. Yeah, so I think need to check with our Nuke team or support team for much more detailed answer, unfortunately. Thank you very much for the question.
That's fine. We can we can come back to you to give you a thorough answer on that if you're okay with that, of course. But thanks, Roy, for tackling that question. And with that, I think we are gonna say goodbye to everyone. Roy, thank you so much for your time joining this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure.
Thank you everyone for joining as well. And enjoy your day, enjoy your evening, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Take care.